fuck this thing, fuck this thing. Definitely fuck that thing. Fuck this thing too. Ooh, fuck that guy. Alright, come on Duke, don't die on me now. Oh, sweet. Alright, got the thing, didn't die. Now let's get out of here. Nothing up there. Fuck! Hey buttheads, it's Rufus. Now back in 2018 I made a video about the very first Duke Nukem game, which, contrary to common knowledge, was not an insanely violent first-person shooter full of boobs, but a cute little kid-friendly action platformer released way back in 1991. Since Duke Nukem is one of my favorite franchises, despite how objectively shitty some of the games are, it's high time for us to take a look at the next entry in the series, 1993's Duke Nukem II. So yeah, lots of awesome pixelated 90s action awaits, and check out this cheesy intro. In 1991, Apogee released Duke Nukem. Its explosive action made it one of the most popular games ever. Now prepare yourself for a new experience. So the game starts in future Los Angeles 1 year after the original, and opens with Duke Nukem practicing his shooting shit skills and being generally awesome.
I am back.
Okay, so they hadn't quite nailed the voice actor yet. Since saving the world from the evil Dr. Proton in the first game, Duke has become a national hero and is out promoting his new book, Why I'm So Great, when he's suddenly abducted by aliens. Oh shit, Oprah cameo. Yep, this is the game that introduced the whole Duke Nukem versus alien invaders concept. We'll probably never see that again. Turns out these extraterrestrial fuckers are called Rigelatons, because they're from Rigel and are a species of big fat guys. Get it? Get it? The Rigelatons are planning to take over Earth, and the first step in their plan is to kidnap Duke Nukem, who is, of course, the planet's greatest warrior, and suck out his brain patterns to run their fancy war computer, which will naturally leave Duke paralyzed and in a constant state of agony forever. Bad times. The Rigelaton ship flies back to their home planet and drops Duke Nukem into a prison cell to await his fate. Fortunately, he has a secret explosive tooth, because of fucking course he does, so he immediately blows the door to his cell, grabs a gun from a nearby locker, and sets out to murder the shit out of all the Rigelatons and escape back to Earth. And that's where the game begins. And we're back. The core gameplay of Duke Nukem 2 is almost identical to the original, so watch my first video if you want a full breakdown. In a nutshell, it's a 2D run-and-gun platformer where you fight through large non-linear levels that scroll in all four directions. Along the way, you have to kill a buttload of bad guys, avoid hazards like bombs and lasers, and collect random rad 90s shit like big-ass brick cell phones for extra points. Fuck yeah, points! When you find the exit of a level, you get a screen that tells you your score and any special bonus points you got, then the next level starts. Repeat 32 times and you win the game. But that's where the similarities end, because Duke Nukem 2 brings a bunch of new shit to the table. Obviously the graphics are all new and very much improved over the original. For instance, the game now features sloped surfaces rather than everything just being made out of square boxes Super Mario style. It also has actual digitized sound effects and synthesized music instead of just random beeps and boops. The controls are more advanced as well. Rather than only being able to turn left, right, and jump, you can now use the arrow keys to shoot straight up at shit over your head, or straight down at bad guys below you when you're hanging off stuff. You can also use this to move the view up and down so you can spy on what's around you, as well as climb up and down ladders and chains, and duck to avoid projectiles. You're fighting aliens now, not just robots, so there's all kinds of fun gooey critters to destroy. But also still some robots, because robots. Every level is chock full of bad guys trying to kill you, but fortunately you now have a radar display that shows you when enemies are nearby. There are new weapons too, instead of just a single gun. Well, okay, you still only get one gun, but you can pick up temporary ammo upgrades like rockets which let you explode most enemies in one shot, laser beams that shoot through anything including walls, and most awesomely, this kick-ass flamethrower which is crazy destructive and also lets you fucking fly. You can even occasionally steal one of these battleships which lets you fly around and kill fucking anything with a crazy powerful laser cannon thingy. In general, the gameplay relies way more heavily on climbing this time around, so you no longer need a power-up to be able to grapple onto things. In fact, all of the pick-upable abilities from the original game are gone, replaced by temporary power-ups like rapid-fire fire, which increases your firing speed, and the cloaking device, which makes you invincible so you can walk straight through laser beams and shit. And because of Duke's famously huge ego, you get a massive point bonus for finding and collecting the letters of Nukem in order, just like Duke in the last game. But now the HUD helpfully keeps track of the letters you have so far. Another new addition is the occasional stage where the goal is not just to find the exit, but to find and destroy all the radar dishes that are tracking you. There's also now a hint globe hidden on every map, which, if you manage not to blow it up and bring it to its pedestal intact, will give you an insider tip on how to beat the stage. You still need to hunt for keys to progress through most maps, but they've done away with the usual rainbow-colored shit. There are just two varieties: blue keys, which open doors, and key cards, which disable lasers. The health power-ups are still cans of totally not Coke, but they now come in 6-packs. And also, the turkey is back, but now it's a live fucking turkey you can cook and eat for double the health. The ever-present atomic health returns as well, but strangely enough, it's only worth 1 health point in this game, which is kinda weak sauce. Like the last game, you still don't have the ability to save your progress in the middle of a level. The game only saves what level you're on, which makes the most welcome new feature in my book the checkpoints halfway through each map. These don't save your game either, you still have to beat each level in one go, but they mean that if you die right before the end, you don't have to restart the whole motherfucker. You can just respawn at the last checkpoint with all your progress intact, which is way less frustrating. Duke Nukem II has 32 levels total divided up into 4 episodes. You start episode 1 by blowing the door off your holding cell and fighting your way out of the prison. You then wander around destroying various locations on the surface of the alien planet before descending underground to fight the first boss, a big fat Rigel in a flying machine. Naturally, you blow his ass up, but now you're stuck down there, until you find a secret passage leading to an elevator that descends even deeper into the planet. Episode 2 has you blasting your way through a variety of underground facilities before squaring off with another Rigel boss and blowing his ass up too. You then decide to be awesome and jump into an active volcano, cause why the fuck not? Episode 3 starts with you inside said volcano, still running around blowing shit up. You eventually fight your way back up to the surface of the planet, which by now is thoroughly destroyed, before making your way to an Arctic base where the giant Rigelatin invasion ship is about to take off for Earth. After a successful aerial battle with yet another blobby-ass boss, the ship starts to lift off, so you run and try to grab onto it. So episode 4 starts with you dangling from the bottom of the spaceship as it exits the atmosphere, which is pretty badass. You fight your way inside and spend the rest of the game running around the ship trying to kill all the bad guys before they reach Earth. No spoilers, but I imagine you know who comes out on top. The original Duke Nukem sold around 70,000 copies, which was a big achievement for Apogee back in 1991. They would go on to develop several similar family-friendly platformers over the next couple of years, like Crystal Caves, Secret Agent, Cosmo's Cosmic Adventure, Monster Bash, Biomenace, and the list goes on. These guys seriously pumped out a shitload of games back in the day, but none of them quite matched the success of Duke Nukem, so a sequel was inevitable. It took nearly 2 years to develop, but finally, in 1993, Duke Nukem II was released and became another immediate hit, paving the way for the rest of the series. But what made this game so successful? Firstly, I'm a big fan of the new graphical style. Obviously, the quality has improved. The first game was limited to 16-color EGA graphics, while Duke Nukem 2 takes advantage of 256-color VGA. The background graphics are noticeably awesome once again, like this ruined alien city, and this time around they can scroll to give the effect of shit like a windy apocalyptic wasteland or a ship flying through space. But really, I'm talking about the overall style of the game. While the original felt very childlike and cartoonish, the sequel is definitely more in line with the 80s action movies that inspired the character. For example, instead of explosions of multicolored confetti, it features actual fucking fiery explosions. There are even little hints of blood and gore here and there, and the bad guys now explode into various body parts. Overall, the graphics are more detailed and gritty and feel more mature than the original. Hell, they even threw in a couple of minor cuss words. They've clearly moved from G to PG, and it makes sense that this was the beginning of the slippery slope to the rest of Duke Nukem's R-rated career. Also, the level design is pretty damn good. The new game engine allows for way more interactive maps, so you run into all kinds of unexpected booby traps, as well as destroyable environments that reshape the map and open up new pathways. There's a lot of variety in the layouts too, like how some levels are entirely vertical climbs, and some are straight horizontal runs through long underground tunnels. Particular standouts for me were the opening map of episode 4, where you're dangling precariously from a spaceship for most of the level, or this one where you're in some kind of giant biological garden within the ship itself. And of course, there are secret areas full of goodies hidden everywhere, so it pays to spend some extra time looking around. That's not to say the designs are perfect. I even got physically stuck in a couple of spots and had to fucking restart. But generally speaking, the levels show a lot of variety and are fun to explore. I'm also happy to say that the series' signature tongue-in-cheek humor is very much present. Duke Nukem is a parody of action movie heroes, so all the dialogue is way over the top cheesy, and there are weird little gags throughout the game, like, "We'll be back after this commercial break with a cute little story about a three-legged dog who saved a baby," or "Live from Rigel, it's Saturday night." I always appreciate it when a game doesn't take itself too seriously. And finally, the music in this game fucking rocks. Because it was 1993, they were limited to using the ad-lib synthesizer cards. The tunes are very basic. But they've still managed to give this game an action movie heavy metal soundtrack. It should really come as no surprise the music in Duke Nukem 2 was created by Bobby Prince, who also scored a handful of other little games, you know, like Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Doom 2, Duke Nukem 3D, and dozens more. Basically, if you wanted your 90s game to have a rockin' synth soundtrack, Bobby was your fucking guy. Now, one thing that really fucking annoyed me in this game was the tiny field of view. The game window feels claustrophobically small. You can barely see more than a few feet in front of you while moving around, besides making it frustratingly difficult to make some jumps. This also means that enemies will constantly pop in from the sides or top of the screen and give you little or no time to react before getting hit. There's a point bonus for getting through a whole stage without taking any damage, but I hadn't managed to get it once in 32 levels. You'd pretty much have to memorize the whole fucking map to know where the bad guys are going to show up. The real reason for this is that Apogee has increased the amount of detail in the graphics, but the actual game resolution is the same as the original, so everything's just bigger on screen. They've tried to remedy this a bit by allowing you to peek up and down and including a radar screen to track nearby enemies, but the radar doesn't actually give you that much warning, and you still can't move the view left and right, so you can't tell what's more than a few feet to either side of you. On some levels, I resorted to very slowly walking forward while constantly firing, which kind of breaks the gameplay if it's supposed to be a fast-paced shooter. Another gripe of mine is that the frame rate is really inconsistent. Usually the gameplay is smooth and responsive, but as soon as there's a lot of animation on screen, the game drops to just a few frames per second, which makes it really hard to maneuver quickly and avoid enemies. Clearly Apogee was pushing the limits of what computer hardware at the time could do, and it definitely fucking shows. Of course, I'm running this on modern hardware so I can just crank up the CPU speed, but then the whole game runs insanely fast and becomes damn near impossible to play. So you're kinda stuck dealing with jerky animation and sluggish controls whenever the shit really hits the fan. And finally, my go-to complaint, some of the levels just feel too maze-like. Most of the maps are really cool, but just like the first game, there's a handful where every room looks identical and the same elements are just repeated over and over, creating what is essentially a maze. And I fucking hate mazes, it's just lazy level design. So there are some pretty annoying issues, but generally speaking, Duke Nukem is a kick-ass little action game, so I'm gonna give it 7 turkeys out of 10. Definitely worth trying out if you're a fan of old-school action games. So where can you find it? Duke Nukem 2, like the first game, was originally released on floppy disks, which you could mail order and play on old-ass DOS computers. Fortunately, it stayed readily available over the years as part of various Duke Nukem compilations, and by itself as a digital re-release. Currently, the only place you can buy it is Zoom Platform, where it's available for just $3, and this version comes pre-configured with the emulator DOSBox, so it works on modern Windows and Mac computers right out of the box. And with a little extra tinkering, you can also run it on Linux. And thanks to RetroArch, a program which lets you run various emulators on a wide variety of systems, you can also use DOSBox on Android, iOS, Nintendo Switch, or Xbox One. So, as usual, the only platform you can't play this game on is PS4. And this is where the video usually ends. Except that I found out literally as I was editing this about a new project called Rigel Engine. Much like Reduke for Duke Nukem 1, it's a complete recreation of Duke Nukem 2 built to run on modern computers so you don't have to fuck around with DOSBox. More importantly, it totally fixes the frame rate issues I was just bitching about. The whole game runs smooth as butter, and it even features an experimental widescreen mode which solves that whole not being able to see jack shit in front of you problem. If I'd known this existed before, I would have been using it this whole fucking time. So for mobile and console, a RetroArch DOSBox combo is still the way to go. But if you're on a computer, give Rigel Engine a try. You still have to buy the game fair and square, but Rigel Engine is a free download. As always, links in the description. The actual game resolution is the same as the original, so everything's just bigger on... If you couldn't tell, I got a dog. Till next time, wash your fucking hands.